The Pacers have a big question on their hands, and it's who would they rather play in round one? Now, it's not in their control, right? They don't even play either two of these two options, these two teams that they could play. They don't play either one of them the rest of the regular season, completely out of their control. I believe the Pacers are locked into the 4 seed. I think that I know that they're 3 games behind the Knicks, they're 3 games ahead of the Pistons. With 7 games left, it seems to me that they're locked into the 4 seed. That is where the Pacers will be, which is encouraging, right? Not only are they in the playoffs, not only are they in the top 6 of the East, but they're in the top 4 of the East, right? They'll have a home game 7 if a series gets that far. That's not guaranteed, but to me, it is, right? That I don't see a world where they lose 3 more games than Detroit does or win 3 more games than New York does. So that leaves the question of who are the Pacers going to play, because the Pistons are half a game ahead of the Milwaukee Bucks for the 5 seed. Yes, the Pistons have the inside track, but the Bucks are safely above the play-in, right? They're right there breathing down the neck of the Pistons after the Pistons overtook the 5 seed just about a week ago. That could absolutely change, right? That 5 and 6 absolutely could flip. These two teams both have manageable schedules the rest of the way, but the real major point is that Damian Lillard is out for the rest of the regular season. It says on CBS Sports, if you look, he's supposed to be out through at least April 13th. So maybe he misses part of the playoffs, but he's certainly going to miss, in my opinion, the rest of the regular season. And these two teams play each other twice at the end of the year. So it's very much within reason that these teams are a game and a half or less separated for the 5 and 6 seed when they play 2 games against one another, where very easily one of these teams can sort of flip the 5 seed in either direction. Milwaukee has lost 4 of their last 5 without Damian Lillard. They are free-falling. They were safely in the 4 seed, honestly, and then they dropped all the way down to the 6. That's behooved the Pacers. It's behooved the Pistons. Can they get back out of that deficit? That's the question to answer throughout the rest of the regular season. Now, Detroit, on the other hand, they've won 3 of 5, including a game over the Cleveland Cavaliers. Detroit has half a game lead, and they're healthy, right? They're playing well. They've won 3 of their last 5. The Bucks have lost 4 of their last 5. The Bucks don't have, their second best player in Damian Lillard. I imagine that the Pistons are on their way to the 5 seed. Time will tell, but I don't see a world where the Pistons don't swipe this one up, right? I don't see a world where the Pistons are not the 5 seed and playing the Pacers at the end of it. Obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucks end up doing it, but Damian Lillard's out. They're playing poorly without him. The Pistons have been great, right? They just knocked off the Cavaliers. The Pistons look good. Now, if the Pistons are the team that plays the Pacers in the first round, that's where things get interesting, because it's a 7-game series and Indiana has home court advantage. But if it is Detroit, Indiana is 3-1 against Detroit on the season. Now, they haven't played them through in I would say 2 months, probably. It's been a while. So the Pacers don't know what the current Pistons are like, and the Pistons don't know what the current Pacers are like either. Detroit is young, they're fun, they're athletic, but they're inexperienced, right? They have an elite trio of guards. They've got Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and Malik Beasley. They've got anchors in the front court, especially defensively with Tobias Harris and Jalen Duren, right? This is a great team. They're young, they're fun, they're athletic, but they are inexperienced. They jump out to early leads, right? They are one of the best in the league in first quarter and second quarter points. And on top of that, this team is known to be great down low, especially in the rebounding game. Tobias Harris gobbles up quite a few rebounds. They score in transition. They turn defense into offense. Again, scrappy, young, athletic, high-flying team with a strong base in the front court. These guards, again, they play quick, they play fast, they run right at you, and the front court is what kind of holds the fort down low. I would be afraid of the Pistons. I mean, this is a group of young guys that really feel like they will do anything to win basketball games, and this is a group of young guys that, again, very capable, very, very capable of winning a series in the first round and potentially more. I think that's their ceiling. I think the Pistons win a first round. Their ceiling would be winning a first round series against the Pacers and then losing in the second round probably to the Cavs. And I imagine it will be the Cavs, could be the Celtics, depending on the way things fall, right? Absolutely, this team is an upset candidate. They'd be the 5 seed in the reason. They'd be the 5 seed for a reason. They're currently the 5 seed in the East, right? The question is, how would the Pacers win? On offense, they shoot very, very efficiently. They catch speed going downhill, right? So that's what I would want to see from the Pacers, is effective shooting and getting downhill. Because down low, I don't know if the Pacers are quite necessarily going to have the front court presence to overcome the front court defense that the Pistons employ. Pascal Siakam is awesome. Miles Turner is awesome. Thomas Bryant is awesome. They are going to be very important in the trenches down there in between the blocks, offensively and defensively, in outpacing the Pistons. But also, I want to see this team get downhill, right? I want to see Halliburton get downhill. I want to see McConnell, who's the best in the game at it, getting downhill. I want to see some drives to the basket that, would potentially put the Pacers in position to score. And on top of that, I think the 3-and-D guys are going to be very important, and that is namely Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard. Them two defensively kind of stowing away Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham and Malik Beasley, whoever it is out there on the perimeter, and also scoring on the other end. That's a big punishing factor that I think the Pacers could potentially employ in repressing the young guards and having a strong matchup with Nembhard and Nesmith against those guards on the other side. Detroit is nifty. Detroit is tough, but that's how the Pacers would win, and I think they could because I think that in the front court, the Pacers have just enough, and they certainly have experience over the Pistons. And I think that they would have just enough to counteract the front court, that the front court success that the Pistons would probably have. And in the backcourt, again, it comes down to playoff experience. It comes down to the Pacers, I think, just being more capable in a 7-game series, playing that many games in that many days, right? That is difficult, and the Pacers are very good at it. We saw that last season. I think the Pacers would beat the Pistons, but I think it'd be close, and I would be afraid at multiple points during that series, I imagine. If it's Milwaukee, then you have a team that's a bit more familiar, right? The Pacers are 1-3 against Milwaukee. Milwaukee has some more clear stars, right? They will have Damian Lillard most likely by the time this series happens. They obviously will have Giannis. Kyle Kuzma, after the trade, add some front court defense and some front court strength as well. Now, Milwaukee's very good at shooting the basketball, especially when they're hot, and if they get hot, it's very difficult to beat them. They make you work for your own shots, and that's the real thing, right? At the end of the day, it's just about outproducing Milwaukee. Can you put more points on the board? Can you grab more rebounds? Can you, in the margins across the board, if you can just outproduce Milwaukee, you'll win this game, which is a common sense idea, but it's difficult because the Bucks really make you work for your production. They really make you work for your points. They really make you work for your rebounds and the box score stats. And on the other end, it seems like it sometimes is just too easy. So the Pacers have got to accept that gambit and play that game against the Bucks, right? Stars outmatching stars, the bench outbenching the bench. I imagine the Pacers bench will be better than the Bucks bench, right, across the board. That's a very clear strength of the Pacers. If TJ McConnell has great games, Thomas Bryant, if he has great games, right, Pacers could beat the Bucks. It's been difficult. The Pacers are 1-3 against the Bucks, and one of those wins, that one win was, of course, that buzzer beater on national television a couple weeks ago. It's a very, very easy to imagine world where the Pacers are 0-4 against the Bucks on the season with potentially a first-round series on the way, and obviously Dame would be banged up, and obviously the Bucks would have their own struggles, but it's difficult. And yeah, the Pacers won in the playoffs last year, and absolutely they would have the opportunity to do the same thing again. This time they would have home court advantage, but Milwaukee's tough. And that front court is, again, difficult to manage, especially when you don't quite have the front court defense or offense to counteract Giannis and Kuzma. Damian Lillard's awesome. The Bucks are awesome. They're very fun to watch. They're very good. I would be worried about the Bucks as well. Really, I think the East is very top heavy, but the top of the East is impossible, right? 7 through 10, not worried about that at all. Don't expect the 1 or 2 seeds to lose. But other than that, every series the rest of the East playoffs is going to be grueling. And the Pacers, I think, are going to experience that straight away when they take on one of these two teams, whether it's Detroit or Milwaukee. They're both tough for different reasons. I'd rather play Detroit from a lack of playoff experience perspective. It's a hard-fought battle either way, right? The Pistons, again, I don't think they're young, they're inexperienced, they maybe don't have the playoff experience to prepare for a big moment like this. I think if they're thwarted by guys like Nembhard and Nesmith on defense, or if Thomas Bryant's really bashing and banging down low, I don't know if the Pistons are quite going to have the answer for the Pacers. And that's why I have the Pacers winning that series, and that's why I would prefer to play the Pistons. It does come down to just simply the Pacers are 3-1 against the Pistons and 1-3 against the Bucks, and the Pacers are 3-1 against the Pistons in a stretch of the season when they weren't exactly playing their best basketball, and now they are. And now the Pacers are absolutely playing their best basketball, and I think that would show itself against the Pistons. Pistons need a tough loss in the playoffs as they ramp up to what they potentially could be moving forward. The Pistons have a very bright future. I just don't know if they quite be ready for this Indiana Pacers team in the first round of this playoffs And that's why I'd rather see Indiana play Detroit. But I'd be afraid of both of them, without a doubt. I would be terrified of either one of these teams. I just think the Pacers are potentially better equipped to take on the Pistons.